What is going on, everybody in the fantasy football world? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Junkyard, where myself and my friend here, the number one Dunna, are going to try and help you get your fantasy teams right during these crazy bye weeks. So just sit back, relax. You're in the good hands of the fantasy football shot callers because, Ben, fantasy's what?
Life, baby. Fantasy is life.
All right, here we are, the craziest bye week of them all.
I cut them all.
I cut you off. What were we about to do? What were we about to say in that moment?
So as long as you're here, as long as you're listening to myself and Tony Tucker, because you know what? From the get-go, we kind of have the same kind of thoughts about fantasy, which is why, maybe Tony Tucker is going to be a juggernaut of the fantasy realm, an honorary shot caller. And so jumping off, we got to jump off because week 7 bye week is the biggest jump off. I feel like week 7 this year is like the number one fantasy bye week of like the past 5 years. It's just crazy.
I would actually really be interested in that sort of a statistic. If somebody out there could tell me if more fantasy points average per game are on the bench than any other bye week in history. Because we got the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Vikings, the Steelers, even the Jaguars with James Robinson. Like I'm blanking on the last one, but there's like in the Bills. Bills have Josh Allen
and Stefon Diggs. And I called that he would have his first touchdown of the year or like have his best game of the year on Monday Night Football, and it happened. And, with these players that you're drafting in the first couple rounds, all you got to do is
you got to trust the process, baby. You got to trust the process.
You got to trust the process, and that's why we're here, because the process is working out for you, but by week 7 is a big hurdle to jump over.
It is. It's one of those weeks where, and we'll get into this at the end of the show, about like really strategizing. Do you have a real legit shot of winning, or should you be just looking ahead to week 8 because it's that bad? On one team, I have Kareem Hunt just got injured, but I have Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Dalvin Cook, Dawson Knox. Like I have every one of my starters is basically on a bye for like one team. I'm starting like Henry Ruggs and Brandon Ayuk. Like I'm throwing the ultimate Hail Mary in fantasy this week.
I mean, those could work out. It's all depending, if Xavier Rhodes is injured, that could be fortuitous for your fantasy managers out there that have Deebo Samuel that need another big game. And then Brandon Ayuk, that milk carton could be smashed this week, and you could come to home. Gone girl, gone no more.
Exactly. I love it. Ben Affleck, come and save my day, my brother.
Except stay in Boston because no one really wants you here.
Let's jump in to quarterbacks on the waiver wire, and I am interested to see who you have in this department to offer up.
Quarterback, speaking of Sunday Night Football and the 49ers against the Colts, Carson Wentz the past couple games has been balling. T.Y. Hilton went down, but I think he'll be back and ready for Sunday Night Football. Get a couple extra hours of encouragement. And so I think Carson Wentz can and will throw another screen pass and a couple more to Nyheim Hines, to Jonathan Taylor. And, I mean, Michael Pittman had a down game last week, only 5.2 points in full PPR, but that's all right. I think he'll have a bounce-back game. And, Mo Alley Cox is doing exactly what he did last year. A couple weeks of great tight end play in weeks 4 through 8, and then nothing, right? Because he was a huge waiver wire pickup last year and then just crapped the bed. But on the Carson Wentz note, he's owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues, so definitely look to go scoop him. Also, another one, and this may be good for the upcoming bye weeks, like bye week 8, 9, 10, even going forward, because in week 8, you got the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. But Jameis Winston, once Michael Thomas comes back in weeks 8 or 9, I think he will be a huge bye week, buy low candidate off the waiver wire. He's still only owned in 39% of Yahoo leagues, and that's mainly because of the inconsistency of the play of the New Orleans Saints. Truly Epic is asking, how do you feel about Tua? Shout out Fantasy Shot Callers on Spotify. We just announced we have released our newest episode today instead of Wednesdays because we are going live with waiver wire pickups as well later in the day today. But we had a segment about who are we firing, Tua or Brian Flores? And Tua had over 300 yards in the air. It looks good to Mike Joseki. Jalen Waddle looks like that wide receiver 1 on that team. But be wary, because also Brian Flores elected to be the only team coming off a London game not to take the bye. So with Tua coming back from overseas, I don't see him producing as well, especially because he's up against the Falcons, which could be good for him. But at the same time, my man could be tired. And I don't see Devante Parker coming back this week yet, or Will Fuller. Will Fuller is like, oh, you really didn't think I could play a full season? Well, don't you worry. I'll miss at least 75% of the season. But it will be cool to see them bounce back. But also the Falcons have been a historically great team coming off the bye. And Matt Ryan has been balling as of late too. So if Matt Ryan is available in your leagues, which, he could be, I would go scoop him immediately, because the Dolphins secondary is not looking that great. We'll see if Xavier Howard is playing this week. But as we all know, Dolphins, one of the worst teams in the league. Shout out Piggy.
Shots fired. Great in the QB segment here. Afix, before we get to your question here, I just want to wrap up the QB talk with this. Carson Wentz has really good matchups. I know the 49ers isn't one per se, but if you look a little bit deeper, they're actually pretty bad at defensive back. So Michael,
and it could be hit or miss, because that's what the 49ers defense really is.
But he has 3 good matchups after that. Does Carson Wentz, if you need a streamer for like the Carson Wentz situation. Also, Jameis Winston, like he said, playing on Monday night, there was a lot of progress in him opening up the playbook a little bit more before the Saints bye week. So I really like that. And then Matt Ryan he's always just feels sort of reliable, and he started to connect with Kyle Pitts, which is great. So I'm with all of these pickups. We'll go to Afix's question first. He's a staple here at the War Zone. We appreciate him. He's got Knox out, Kittle on IR, deciding between Hunter Henry and Ricky Seals Jones.
So you got to go matchup in this one. Hunter Henry is, he's my boy. Last year he helped me, slowly but surely win a fantasy championship. And so with Hunter Henry, I think you have to start him over Seals Jones. Seals Jones had a great game last week. Like a 30-yard touchdown pass from Taylor Heineke. But at the same time, the Jets' defense is really nothing. I mean, Bryce Hall is pretty good, but he will be covering either Jacoby Myers or Nelson Aguilar. So you have that big tight end. And what do we say about rookie quarterbacks and big tight ends? Oh, hey, buddy, you're my best friend. You're my best friend.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to agree here. Well, I think you said Hunter Henry, and I think Hunter Henry is the play there. I forget who Washington plays this week.
Packers.
The Packers. That's a spicy matchup too. Um, I'm still gonna lean Hunter Henry. 4 good games in a row. I think Mac Jones really has sort of realized, hey, they paid a bunch of money for this guy, and he's really good. He's been good with Phillip Rivers. He's been good with Justin Herbert. There's probably a reason for that. So I'm gonna continue to look the way of Hunter Henry, and Hunter Henry might also be somebody you can keep on your team. Yeah. Like he's not just like a 1 week. Once Hulk Logan Thomas back in Washington football team, Ricky Seals-Jones will be an afterthought there. Max Weaver. Should I trade Mike Gesicki and Daryl Williams for Sanders and Mike Evans? I have Zeke, Aaron Jones, and Pitts.
No, man, chill. Just chill. All you got to do is chill.
Yeah, I would continue. I honestly think Daryl Williams is going to continue to be part of the offense even when CEH is back. He just fits more of what they need from that position. Like Andy Reid would love to go back in time and have kept Kareem Hunt, but neither CEH has a little bit of Kareem Hunt. How do I say this? Kareem Hunt is CEH and Daryl Williams smashed together, basically is what I'm trying to say. And he had it in one player. I think that he leans a little bit more. What the Chiefs need is a little bit more of that aggressive sort of running style that Daryl Williams brings.
And Daryl Williams looked like he's been starting for the Kansas City Chiefs for a year and a half now. Last game, I mean, just the poise he had in just running through the blockers, really being able to run through that Chase Young-led Montez Sweat defense. Granted, they are having a down year, but I just feel that I was wrong with Daryl Williams and that backfield. So if the Chiefs want to win games, I think they're going to have to run first, throw later, instead of the opposite, because it's just not working out for them. So I would chill. Mike Gesicki, the bold prediction from Ben Dunna of the Fantasy Shot Callers is he will finish as tight end 7 or below this year, and it's looking pretty good so far. And, the one thing I explained earlier in the week, that Mike Gesicki didn't have any target or any receptions, right, week 1. But Devante Parker has been out. Devante Parker had 7 targets in week 1. So where did all those targets go? To Mike Gesicki. And now that Mike Gesicki and Tua have a rapport, he's going to keep going to him. And Tua needs to save his job and keep his job. So he's going to go to my best friend in Mike Gesicki.
Those are also the middle of the field is the easiest read for Tua at this point, and he needs some easy reads, which is why I thought they would maybe get Gaskins involved a little bit more. I want to stay on track and transition into running backs. Before I do that, anybody in here, go follow the Fantasy Shot Callers on Instagram and on TikTok. You will find the links to both of those. Hit them with a follow in the description below this video. Please go and do that. Let's move on to our running backs. And there's actually a little bit of hope this week in this department, I think.
Running. I just keep on running and running and running. And that's what J.D. McKissick will do. He is the number 1 waiver wire acquisition this week, 43% owned in Yahoo League, so he's still under 50%. With Antonio Gibson, we saw last year that whatever injury he has, it will nag at him, and shin splints from experience are nothing to gawk at. They are lingering. They're as lingering as a calf or a hammy. And Antonio Gibson, maybe, there's a little less fight than in other running backs, and he doesn't like to fight through pain too much. But that's okay. Everyone has their own prerogative. It's my prerogative. But
Bobby Brown.
Yeah, and J.D. McKissick is the number, and I called it last week too that he would have a big game, because even with Antonio Gibson healthy, I think every 3 games J.D. McKissick has a great game. But they are going against lowly Packers run defense. So look to him as your number 1 waiver wire pickup. And then number 2 is going to be D'Ernest Johnson of the Cleveland Browns, with Kareem Hunt immediately going on IR. It's like Kevin Stefanski learned from the Panthers and learned from, let's see, who else? Oh, the Giants on when to put their fantasy running backs on IR immediately. These guys are funneling our money, you know, everything. Like, fantasy is life. Like, Kevin Stefanski really knows fantasy is life because he's like, IR immediately. Let's help out all of these running back riddled teams
Yes.
to put Kareem Hunt on the IR. Anyways, now he's a waiver wire pickup, but I would suggest not starting him this week unless you have no other option, because that Broncos defense led by Von Miller was like he has not even had an injury ever in his life. I would not start him this week because that Broncos defense is for real. I feel like they may be going to a
Demetric Felton.
Yeah, there we go. In the pass catching game, because he is more like Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson is more like Nick Chubb. It's like they have just tiers like of their 1 and 2s. They have like Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and then Dearness Johnson and Demetric Falcon. So look at those two. I mean, another one to look at as well is Randre Stevenson of the it's Randre Stevenson, aka James White of the New England Patriots. So he had about 15 points last week, and look to him to keep eating against that Jets defense. And if for some reason someone dropped Damian Harris, you got to go snag him.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I do like the advice on the Browns running back, holding off if you can, but you should still grab him this week because Chubb has already been ruled out. So I think Felton and Hunt are there, and Felton feels like the better play because there's a chance that this could be a game where the Browns are really trying to like just drag through this one, you know, and it's like, how can we get little easy screen passes? OBJ might be banged up, no Jarvis Landry, so that's interesting there. And JD McKissick, the thing that I love about him is the ability to do a little bit of everything, right? When he's on the field, you're thinking pass because it's McKissick, but he has the ability to run. Really, injuries have been his problem. Like, they were high on him when he was in Seattle. So I like McKissick, and the Randre Stevenson one I think is good just because Harris is banged up. Again, you never know when he's going to fully get to take over there. Look for Jarrett Patterson, too, if you guys own Antonio Gibson, because that's somebody that could get some work. That's basically what we need. We just need we need healthy bodies to get through this week. Yeah, truly epic. This was back in the last conversation here. Yes. Love that. And then before we move to wide receivers, thoughts about Tannehill as well. I know he hasn't been the best, but he's got KC coming up, and I have Dak on a bye. I'm have Tannehill targeted as one of my streaming options against KC because that's how thin it is at quarterback in one of the leagues I'm in.
And here starts my prediction of 2021 of the Tennessee Titans winning 7 in a row and all being shootouts. And they started against the Buffalo Bills. A.J. Brown, he's back, baby. Unfortunately, Derrick Henry, he's just here, and he's here to stay. Oh, my gosh. He's just an animal, an absolute animal. So I would go with Tannehill. It looks like Julio's a little banged up. Maybe they were taking it easy on him, but I doubt it because they really needed to win that game. So, unfortunately, what was it? You would say fifth round tenders that people spend on Julio?
Probably like end of the 4th and 5th. It's there's no trade upside. Like, you got to keep him. He looked pissed that they were holding him out. I mean, he was more upset about being held out of there than Shannon Sharp blowing, leaving him on the air like that. I was like, I kind of like this. I like this fight. Like, he wanted to be in the game and he couldn't get there. And
I think
let's
this next comment leads us right into wide receivers, and I will answer that after we talk a little wide receivers. First and foremost, the new wide receiver one for the Chicago Bears. Darnell Mooney, 44% owned in Yahoo leagues. Last call, even though he's still under 50%. He is the wide receiver one on that team. He caught a touchdown last week. Justin Fields is just getting better and better every week. So Darnell Mooney, if you need a wide receiver, he is your biggest boom potential this week. Also, we talk about him every week. Tim Patrick of the Denver Broncos. That secondary is banged up of the Browns. The Browns are the best team that are 3-3. They just can't hold it together. Their injuries are just really bad. And Tim Patrick could have a great game. And my boy in green and white, Jameson Crowder. He's only owned in 27% of Yahoo leagues. He is coming off a bye. I think he will score a touchdown and have at least 60 yards through the air. And in full PPR, I have him about 18 points this week. So look to start him because with that wide receiver core healthy in New York, I mean, it it could finally be that boom in fantasy projections that a lot of people thought would happen earlier in the year. And then, Rashad Bateman, he did look good in his first game back. Shout out Truly Epic. And I think it's too early to start him. Yes. But he should have been stashed because he was an IR spot. You could just have someone else, whatever, that you could be floating in here and there. And Lamar Jackson, I think he gave 1 week to all the 30-plus-year-old running backs that are in that backfield. Shout out Tyson Williams. I'm sorry, man. You can come over to the Jets and hang out with us. But for some reason, they just didn't like what they saw there. And Lamar Jackson is that RB1 on that team.
Yep, I agree. That hurt. It really, even on the Sunday morning, we do the wake-up call, and I was like, watch the Chargers' crappy run defense turn Le'Veon Bell into people will just be shooting for him on the day of the waiver wire. Yep. And they really did their best effort to try and drag him into relevancy again. And Devonta Freeman, the whole thing. Just come on, Chargers, take your bye week, go out and make some trades. Your defense is terrible.
Yeah.
I like this. Rashad Bateman, I think if you're really hurting for wide receivers, it might be worth just a long shot flex play or whatever, because he looked good. Even in one of the interceptions, he was just eyeing Bateman the whole time, in that last game. So he does want to get him the football. And if Brown continues to have drop issues, again, we saw it again this weekend. He had another ball hit him in the hands that could have went for 6. So maybe Bateman starts to creep in there a little bit more. He will not surpass Marcus Paul Bunyan Andrews. That guy is I just don't get it. I don't get how the Chargers left that guy open. I was so pissed. Okay, enough of my powder blue bleeding through. Let's move on to the tight end position.
Oh baby, you my best friend. I don't know the rest of the lyrics, so I'm not going to butcher that. But this is the tight end segment of Choo Choo Choo. Last call on Zach Ertz and Hunter Henry. Zach Ertz has been traded to the Cardinals, but just be wary because that Cardinals offense is looking like a lot of Tom Brady's offense. Kyler Murray likes to throw to everyone. So just be careful with starting Zach Ertz. It's kind of one of those hope and praise. And then also, Hunter Henry, he's, like we said earlier, looking like the best friend out in New England. He's 73% owned in Yahoo leagues. So like I said, if he is available in your 10-man league, I'd still scoop him. But the one under 50%, which you're all been waiting for, is the one, the only, in the capital city, working for Logan, the bunion on your foot Thomas, Ricky Seals-Jones at 30% of Yahoo League. So I'd go scoop him this week. He had a great game last week, and he is, I would say, that wide receiver 3 next to Terry McLaurin and even J.D. McKissick on that Washington football team.
Yeah, and if I were going to put those in order, I would go with Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, then Ricky Seals-Jones, because at least Ertz has long-term potential in the offense. And so Max Williams was he was becoming a little bit of something in Arizona, and then he gets injured. Zach Ertz is a better tight end version, even at this stage in his career, than Max Williams was. So I think that the tight end position is so tough, right, that you might be able to get some usable weeks out of Zach Ertz. Ricky Seals-Jones, again, I just can't see them continuing to play him over Logan Thomas whenever that return happens. And Hunter Henry, 4 really good weeks at the tight end position. He's going to, again, find a way to finish in the top 5. Here's the thing I hate about who preached about Hunter Henry all offseason? This guy right here. All offseason, I talked about Hunter Henry. And I gave up on him in all 3 of the leagues I had after 2
By
weeks.
week
And
2.
now I'm so angry about it. I can't contain it, because when I went back to get him, he was not available in any of those leagues. Yeah, you win some, you lose some, and this one I lost for not relying on myself. Any, I don't know, defensive streamers, if you just play the matchups, people.
Yeah,
just get
Saints.
out there. I don't know.
Unless Cam Newton is signed by the Seahawks and plays this week, which I doubt, you got to go Saints. Marshawn Lattimore is going to lock up either DK or Tyler Lockett, whichever he wants to put his fingers on. And that Saints run defense is still no joke. Alex Collins is a little banged up, so we'll see if he plays too. It's also Monday Night Football. So if Cam Newton is not playing for the Seahawks by Monday, start the Saints defense.
Yep. Gino Smith. Gino! That was there's a really good, fun video from a live stream, the watch party of that game that we cut out, where Joe loses. He's bragging about beating Fantasy Football Therapist by 1.5 points, and all he needs is Gino to not get a turnover, and Gino fumbles the ball in overtime, and Joe loses, and I lost it. I couldn't keep it together. I fell off the screen laughing because it felt disrespectful to laugh in somebody's face that hard.
Yeah, but shout out TJ Watt for literally putting that defense on his back and winning Pittsburgh that game. He's the reason they won.
He's absolutely amazing. He's worth every penny he's dragging Ben to like being startable. That's what he's doing right now.
And like there was this one shot of him like with 5 defenders around him, and he still comes out and makes the tackle and stuffs the runner. I think it was like DJ Dallas, I feel like. And it was just like, I don't know. It was just crazy. TJ Watt is just a god among men on that football field.
Excellent genes from the Mr. and Mrs. Watt. 3 NFL players, and they all can play in the NFL. Before we get to this comment here, I will just say this very quickly. For people that are newer to fantasy football, in a bye week like this, please do yourself a favor. Before you drop any player that you think might just be done or you're sick of or whatever, I think you got to look at dropping any kicker not named Tucker or Butker and any defense that isn't top 5. And
what
just
about
like
Greg the Leg.
And he's replaceable. Get your lineup set, and then by Sunday morning, go grab the best available kicker, defense, whatever it is. You need to get as many of those roster spots as you can, because potentially IR guys could get put on IR, and you might be able to do a little bit of roster maneuvering. I'm seeing I saw somebody in one of my leagues this morning, because they're so backed up, they dropped JD McKissick. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because they need to pick up a quarterback for that league. And I'm just like, you have to understand that they have another player. I forget who it is, but could be put on IR or could whatever. Something could happen. You could have a COVID situation or whatever. It's just certain things you got to look at in that situation. Let's get to this here from Truly Epic, who's been in the chat the whole time. We really appreciate you being in here and talking fantasy football with us. But Hunter Henry, over under 12 fantasy points this week. What do you say?
In what format?
I'm going to go with a full point PPR.
Okay. Over.
I'm going to go over 2. I think he can. I think
over 16 and a half.
Yeah, I think he's going over 12 against the Jets. Yeah, I like that. Even if it's the hard way, even if it's like 8 catches for 71 yards or something, like he doesn't get the touchdown. I really like what Hunter Henry's been doing involved in that offense. So, what does this say?
I don't know. But
hummus my belt.
I think Mike on the mic, shout out. He has literally every Chargers offensive player in Warzone of Attrition. He will be taking that L this week. Unfortunately, I'm not there to give it to him because he mollywopped me with Lamar Jackson going for 40-something points a couple weeks ago. So there we go, but I'll see you in the championship, bud.
I hope I get him this week in that league. I really do. I don't know who I play. I mean, I think it's pretty fair that he has a few charges. I got Trevor Lawrence on a bye this week in that league, so I think it balances out, Mike. I'm in 2 leagues with him, and I haven't played him at all yet. So,
yeah, in that league, I have Najee Harris and CeeDee Lamb on bye this week. So
it's gonna be rough. I have Dalvin Cook and Trevor Lawrence, but I just thought it'd be funnier if I just mentioned Trevor Lawrence. Herbert and Lamar Jackson put 50 on the shot callers. Yes,
each.
Yeah, each. It was a real beatdown for sure in there.
It was like 200 to like 230.
It was, yeah. When you put up 200 points and you lose, it hurts in a whole new kind of a way. Yeah. So lastly, I just want to say this. There's a couple of players out there that I think if you are just sort of in full tank mode just for this week, because you do have so many, go and look at a guy that might get traded like Marlon Mack. If the Colts decide, like they said, they want to do right by him, maybe they trade him to somewhere where he can play more on a contender. Also, Rashad Penny, this neck injury thing with Chris Carson kind of freaks me out a little bit. I already gave some love to Jarrett Patterson because I think the shin injury on a young player on a team that is going nowhere extremely fast for the Washington football team, I could see them sort of shutting down Antonio Gibson.
Shout out Saquon Barkley as well.
He's another guy that who knows? Maybe they shut him down. I mean, but what are you looking at? Gary Brightwell, Devontae Booker's already owned. So there's just
for sure. But
look at some of those guys. Look at Chris Evans, I believe his name is.
Caught a 40-yard touchdown, a 30-yard touchdown.
He looks really nice, big player. Just put some guys on your bench that might give you a little bit of bonus heading into the next week if there is an injury or Samaje Perine is out longer or something like that.
Especially in dynasty leagues.
Yeah.
Chris Evans is a must roster in dynasty leagues, in my opinion.
Yeah. Go around and look. I mean, maybe somebody's had to free up space and they drop Michael Thomas and you're like, I'm going to take the L this week anyways. Might be a few more weeks, but maybe you get Mike Thomas on your roster and you just really punt on this week and try and get as many points as you can. We got one last question here from Truly Epic, and then we are going to get out of here. Is Odell Beckham Jr. too risky to start on a short week because of injury? To me, this depends on what your roster looks like.
Exactly, 100%.
I would not be starting Odell if I had any other choice because the thing I hate the most is watching Thursday Night Football and he goes out there for one play, runs a route, and limps off the field. And then it's like, and then you just watch the game and, Lisa Salters comes back and she's like, well, this just in. Your Thursday night is ruined. So enjoy your, it's like, oh, this is the worst thing ever.
Actually, one guy we didn't talk about too much is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He had 26 points last week.
Yeah, I think Mike actually makes Keenum would use Odell better,
100%.
I think, than what Baker has shown, right? Because Case Keenum, although a backup, is pretty good with the timing routes. Like, remember the season he had with Stefon Diggs and Adam Thielen?
Yep.
Like,
oh yeah,
he really is really good at understanding Stefanski's system and getting the ball out in rhythm. So I could see more production for Odell in that case.
I mean, if there were some of those passes where Odell was just not catching them, they were right in his hands.
Yeah, there was one, a fourth down play that it's like, you got to catch this if you're that guy.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the Browns are like, hey, we're just too beat up and we have Odell. Like, let's take a 5th or 6th round pick from the Chargers, and we're going to send Odell out west. Man, would I love to have him and Keenan lining up. Mike Williams, would be nasty. It'd be so great. I got a few other options. I would look elsewhere because, I mean, here's the other thing. The Broncos defense played bad, but against the Raiders. But let's take our hats off and just say that the Raiders had a good game plan for 1 week, and they have Derek Carr out there slinging it and stuff like that. And they have the speed of Henry Ruggs. You have some sort of opportunities for your team to really exceed in that situation. I don't think that's the same case with the Browns this week. Coming and beat up at offensive line, beat up at quarterback, and Odell's banged up. I'd go elsewhere with that. Any Kadarius Toney, T.Y. Hilton?
Who's healthy?
Yep. I think if one of those guys is healthy, that might be your guy, but it could be the same thing there. But injuries suck. Truly epic. You can go down and find out more information about this guy in the description of this video. Follow him over there. For us, we're here all week long. We'll be back with Fantasy Football Boot Camp on Saturday, the Fantasy Football Speakeasy before that at 11 a.m. And then on Sunday morning, the Fantasy Football Wake Up Call. Truly epic. Jump in that chat, ask all your questions. Everybody is well-researched, passionate, and wants to help out in that avenue. Subscribe to the give them the podcast so I don't mess it up.
Fantasy Shot Callers, Spotify, Apple, Google, Verbal, new alert, and Amazon Podcast. And we are going live. It is called Stacking the Studs. It's the YouTube premiere of my co-host Zach Attack Verney, and we are going live 3:30 p.m. Stacking Studs on the Fantasy Football Network. And because fantasy is life, it's a vibe.
Love it. We will see you guys next Tuesday. Survive these buys, people. Survive the bye.